What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Critical Overlord here. We're going to be talking about Buffy the Vampire Slayer new Sunnydale in this video here today. I haven't done a solo video on this in quite some time, but Sarah Michelle Gellar was interviewed recently by Variety out at a recent event, and she went over how you don't have to watch the original show to understand new Sunnydale and how she never thought she'd be playing Buffy again. So I'm going to go over that and share my thoughts on all of it. So she said, "It was not a place that I ever saw myself, so it definitely felt very surreal. But this is why you never say never, and I'm sure I said never many times, and I've learned my lesson because I'm sure someday you're going to go back and find all the times I said no, never. I'm too old. It'll be Buffy with a walker." She doubled down on how Chloe Zhao convinced her to return as Buffy. Chloe had this idea in a world, and the passion with which she spoke both about her idea and the show made me realize that now more than ever, we need those heroes to believe in. It's tough times for everybody right now, and I think people feel more isolated and more alone, and we live in an incredibly digital society, but ultimately, the more and more technologically connected we get, the more disconnected we're becoming, and so found family and those true moments become more and more important. Lastly, she suggested it won't be necessary for you to have seen the original to enjoy new Sunnydale. This is a show that will cater definitely to the original fans. There will always be Easter eggs because there were Easter eggs in the original, but we also want to introduce it to people that maybe haven't seen the show. Now, that shouldn't be a surprise to anyone because as popular as Buffy is, doing homework tends to be a turnoff for audiences these days, or at least some in audiences. So if you can watch new Sunnydale as its own thing, relate to Nova, her friends, root for them, etc., then you're fine. The other reason it's not a surprise is because we've known Buffy is just going to be a recurring star, not the lead, since this series got announced. Although there's many people online, despite any new detail that comes out, they are flabbergasted that this is not about Buffy Summers. They've been telling you it's not about Buffy Summers since it got announced. You got to start reading more than just headlines. You cannot start blaming news outlets because you didn't read all the information they made accessible to you. Now, in regards to her first comment, you guys know I'm on record saying Sarah didn't need to come back as Buffy for the universe to return at all. Buffy's story is done. I'm not one of those individuals who is open to constant returns for characters who have had a nice, solid story told. A lot of people argue, well, you can always tell a new one. Yeah, you can. You're not wrong. But it doesn't mean you should, nor does it mean you have to. I just put a lot of value in knowing that a story is ending and it's staying concluded. I cherish being able to go back and revisit these stories that have a start and an end in sight anyway, versus characters who have a start and I don't know where franchises are really going with them because there's no clear end in sight. I don't know where the end goal is for your character, so I might become a bit disassociated from their journey. When I know there's an end in sight, I can connect a bit more. It makes me feel more engaged with their journey. So, with all these Slayers that got activated at the end of Chosen, you had a pool of stories to tell. You don't need Buffy. One character I would have loved to focus on in a spinoff back in the day as a sequel to Buffy is Dana. If you remember that mental nut we met in Angel Season 5, I've referenced her in previous videos talking about new Sunnydale because there's some stuff about Nova that actually reminded me of Dana. I would have loved to see Dana again in some sort of solo show. Andrew took her at the end of that episode, and we never saw that character again. With new Sunnydale, I have a strong feeling it's going to reveal that Willow's spell only activated a lot of girls at the time, but it wasn't a long-lasting spell like what the Shadow Men did. So Nova is a character who is activated from the original spell, not Willow's. That's my best guess. I'm just trying to think of why Buffy eventually goes to Sunnydale to help this girl if she isn't the only Slayer around. It just doesn't make sense to me. Now, if I want it to make sense, I imagine Buffy's little insurance job that she's supposed to have leads to her becoming curious about no one being there to protect the Hellmouth like she did. So she travels there, runs into Nova, realizes there is someone here to protect the Hellmouth, but also discovers that Nova is newly activated. She doesn't have a lot of Slayer experience, and she decides to train her. And then, of course, she'll probably relate to her in a way because that's how she was. She was the new kid on the block at one point when it comes to being a Slayer. She had her band of Scoobies, and Buffy will be connected. She'll feel like Giles. I'm pretty sure we'll get a lot of Giles jokes and how she's taking the Giles role and yada, yada, yada. Hopefully they have some worthwhile storytelling for Buffy as well, not just her being Nova's Giles. I want to acknowledge the potential chance of this show failing because it is a real possibility, and I know some listening are hoping it fails because it's not from Joss Whedon, or you think that this is Sarah's last attempt to stay relevant due to a recent streak of canceled shows. Now, ignore Joss Whedon's absence for a second and Sarah's personal interest that I know a lot of you theorize about in my comments. Disney's involvement could kill interest for many. As much as people like to ignore it, several individuals simply do not rock with their shows. The MCU ones come to mind, and I know Goosebumps was also just recently canceled earlier this year. If audiences are telling you your shit stinks and you continue to double down on what is turning them off, you start to condition them to skip shows. And then you cannot keep blaming them. You are the ones producing these things. Produce things that they want to see. So the chances of this happening to Buffy are there. Audiences are also becoming tired of sequels, reboots, revivals, etc. You can't ignore those things. New Sunnydale isn't dead on arrival in my eyes. To many of you it might be, but it doesn't have an easy route to success. I will at least acknowledge that. I truly believe Buffy is an IP that has a massive casual fan base who are not chronically online, and they'll at least be intrigued to check it out. But how many will say F that because of Disney's involvement? That's the part that I'm concerned about. There are a lot of people who are simply not rocking with Disney right now. They do not like the creative decisions they are making, and they do not like how they have control of so much. And they don't like what they're doing with their favorite IPs. And you can label them all the things you want to. I don't even need to specify what I'm talking about because you guys know who those people are. But there are legitimate people out there with valid criticisms that it seems like their voices are never heard. They feel like their voices are never heard. They feel like they're watching IPs just be tarnished again and again and again and again and again. And with your track record recently with these audience members, who's to say that they are going to now see that your name is attached to Buffy the Vampire Slayer and they're gonna be like, oh, it's from Disney? Yeah, I'm not gonna watch this. Or maybe I'll wait till it sustains itself for 2 seasons. But then that's going to be a big risk because now you're going to have to rely on a lot of ignorant people who don't know about Disney's recent failures. And if you can retain their attention, maybe there's a chance that the people who weren't rocking with you start to rock with you maybe during season 3 or 4, if New Sunnydale can even last that long. Just wanted to recognize that, but those were some fine comments from Sarah Michelle Gellar. I will also say that when it comes to her comments suggesting that you don't have to watch the original show to understand New Sunnydale, do yourself a favor, and if you haven't watched that show, just watch it. It's a phenomenal show. Watch Angel as well. Watch them side by side. In fact, if you want a viewing guide, if this is your first time watching Buffy the Vampire Slayer or Angel, or maybe if you've never watched them side by side, you can legitimately reach out to me and I will send you the viewing guide. There is a whole guide that I use once a year when I revisit these shows. They are just that good. I don't think you should watch New Sunnydale without having seen Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Angel, but especially Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Do yourself that favor and just watch it. If you haven't already, of course, make sure you go ahead and subscribe. Turn on post notifications so you never miss a video. In the description, I have links to all my social media accounts. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can message me there, of course. Let me know if there are any movies, news, or reviews you'd like me to cover in the future. And with all that in mind, guys, I will see you in the next video.